Hello, everyone. We are very happy to have Vicky in our COEX Talk of the Day. Vicky, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay,
Tell
hi.
us a little bit more about who you are and what you do and what you're going to be talking about.
Okay. First of all, thank you. Hi, girls. Hi again. My name is Vicky Dominguez. I am a retired mental health clinician, and I'm currently a holistic life coach and a meditation instructor. And I also write freelance, all things life and wellness. And I'm here with you guys because funny story. We were talking about this right now. We've with one of you I went to to
Me.
no, Claudia, I went elementary, middle school, high school. And then we didn't see each other again until we've been doing these talks, and now we're getting together and reacquainted, and we're talking about like our years then and now. And then Marifer, I've only seen twice, but it's like we're soul sisters, literal. And then Pompitas, I'm gonna call her. I know. Uh-huh. And we've met over the Zoom chat and everything. And so I don't know. We've been talking about this, and I think we're a group of people who wants to make a positive impact. All of us in different lanes and kind of sharing our stories from our perspective and how we know. And I guess that's how my topic came about, which is the sustainability of self. And it was really just having an existential conversation with Marifer about about life and about the current times and about how to build the toolbox for moving forward in life, and kind of what premises to hold and what truths to align with, with like how to move about in our lives. And so I think the term sustainability and kind of how I view it in regards to the self is really about reaching a state of flow and a state where we can we can move about, with change and shift, and be okay with it. And so it kind of has a lot of aspects to it, but I think the main point was really how to reach a point where we can flow with what is, we can accept life and be, with it regardless of what it is. Sometimes it's chaotic, sometimes it's very peaceful, sometimes it's super cool, sometimes we're struggling. So how to move about with those shifts, and how to reach that state of flow. And so I guess that's what we were talking about. And we reached to sustainability of self.
Yes, I think, and maybe we can all pitch in into this conversation. I think sustainability is a very strong word in a lot of senses because we all have our own vision of what sustainability is, and it's not very, very defined. I feel this is my point of view. So when it comes to sustainability of the self, it's like thinking not only what you're doing outside to live a sustainable life, but then how do you do it with yourself? And I'm going to say it very openly, it's so freaking hard. Sometimes I have days that I just don't even know if I'm here. It's I don't even know how to describe those days. And then some days I have days that are wonderful. I can't believe that I'm alive.
And
So
sorry, I'm
no, no,
interrupting.
go ahead, go ahead.
And I think that's part of it, kind of sustainability is reaching that point where we can accept all those points, regardless of, we are in the motion of it, and we are choosing to cultivate and to practice and to make these little choices that will change and make our experience a better experience.
Yes. Another thing that I see or that I struggle with is we talk about choices, but then making choices sometimes could be really, really hard because you want to think about yourself without making others think like, oh, I'm being selfish, but then you don't want to hurt somebody. I don't know if I'm making
No, yes, totally. And that topic comes up, the reason why I think the reason why we talk about this is, and we all resonate with it, is because it exists, it's that's a true issue. And so when you've reached this point which was something that we were talking about right now, where you are working towards being your own point of reference, and you're working, doing the inner work to be kind of connected to source and say, okay, what speaks to me without being defined by any of these things that we have right now, which is social media, peer pressure. I mean, the current times call for all these things that are seeking to kind of define us, right? And they're telling us what to like and how to look and what to wear and what not to wear, and what movements to follow and what movements to not follow. And so there's these like total signals outside. And I think, like you said, we need to look inside, that's how we become sustainable to self. When we stop, we look inside, and we cease to define ourselves by external references, and we create our own kind of set of truths.
When we decide what do we want to believe in.
Well, and what do we want to believe in, and what do I align with? What if you're in the spiritual world, you might have heard that right now we're kind of like, there's two dominant energies. There's the energy of fear, and there's the energy of love. And so daily we're, choosing to be on a path, literally, like, we're choosing consciously. And a lot of people, and that's kind of another aspect of sustainability, a lot of people don't know that they have the choice, and so they unconsciously move towards this or that. So how do we move from that to be conscious and to be able to make the choice and to say, okay, I'm going to stop. These references don't give me what I need, and are not sustainable, because that's another aspect of sustainability. It speaks to you. It aligns with, like, you align with it. It's from inside. It's not like if you're creating from external references, then it makes it unsustainable, because you will never be able to keep up with the outside. Versus going inside and assessing, doing the work, and saying, okay, what works for me? What do I want to create? Where do I want to create from? How do I want to feel? What do I want to align with? And what we were saying, previously, and we've had this conversation multiple times, that it also requires a lot of letting go. As you polish your field, as you polish your existence, as you polish kind of like who you are and who you want to be and what you're aligning with, there's a lot of also letting go and determining, okay, what beliefs, what habits, what people, what relationships, even a job, even there's a lot of things that drain you and pull you down.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of letting go and pain in the process.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the sustainability of self, it's really the goal. I mean, and I think the goal in life is just to shine at your brightest light.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do that work to polish, to get to that place where you are able to say, okay, this is what makes me sustainable. This is what I can do. This is what I align with. This is what provides me with joy and love and abundance. And this is what makes me feel at my top.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest I can engage with.
Just like I was saying before starting our conversation, that I read about animals being a 2D dimensional living creatures, and I'm like, in my own thoughts, in my personal belief, I can't, I don't relate to that. I don't think that's true, because to me, in my body, in my perspective, animals and plants make me alive. How can a 2D make you feel so alive, so real? They remind me of perfection. They remind me of God. They remind me of the creation. They remind me of ecosystems, of working together. And so I read that and I was like, no, I don't believe this.
And see, but you're kind of like, you're connected and you're coming from a place where it doesn't resonate with me. Like, okay. And that's kind of like, I think as we move forward, I think we're going to have to reach that point where we are able to coexist with the different, everybody's entitled to their own choices.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's entitled to what resonates to them. And maybe something that speaks to you and doesn't speak to me, or maybe something speaks to me and doesn't speak to you. But we can have a conversation about it and it's fine. And we can sit at a table and disagree and it's okay. And there's power. I mean, I think sustainability of self is kind of like globally, literally like defined by the quote that says there's power, and there's like, you've reached a level of freedom when you genuinely, like, nothing affects you, like I've reached a level of freedom where I know what works for me, I know what I believe, and I'm fine with that, and I'm also fine with what you believe and you how you lead your life.
I think that's the key, to know what you believe in so much that you understand what others believe in, and that doesn't necessarily means that they have to believe what you believe in,
and not necessarily just like understand it, but respect the fact that other people can have a different opinion, can have a different belief, that they can, just like you said, so we can all coexist with each other.
And not only that, but if you can take it like to the next level, really, is like, be open to the fact that maybe my truth is not entirely correct in its, in everything. And maybe what you're saying could also like add on to my to my wealth of knowledge, and I could possibly be wrong, or there could be two truths, Mm-hmm. So also be open to the fact that my mind can be changed.
Sometimes when I feel a little bit close-minded, because I guess that happens to all of us, that someone comes in with a totally different perspective and idea of life or things, and you're like, no, I try to I tell myself, remember that this is a universe. Anything is possible. You cannot be, if they want to believe, respect that, because they don't see the things the way that you see them.
Well, and each person is a universe in itself.
Don't be closed-minded. Don't say
Yeah.
no.
Or just listen, como que, okay, listen and let's see where this takes us. And it's okay. Like, it's not the end of the world if I listen to another perspective.
Mhm.
I think another aspect of the sustainability of the self is learning when you're being harmful to others, when your energy is low, or if that's how you want to call it, when you're not at your highest, and you could become a person that repels that state that you're in, you could harm others. So when sustainability in that sense is like, when should I step back, go home, think, and maybe I'm like not in a good state right now and I could affect others. You know what I mean?
um I think like anytime we're emotionally charged, we
Mm-hmm.
need to bring it back to ourselves. Like I when I work with clients, it's and even in myself, it's like, um well, he made me feel like that because he said this. Okay, which is perfect, fine. But what part of that are you projecting? What part of that are you finding offense in?
Mm-hmm.
That's because it's all about you. Also, you need to bring it back to you and how you're feeling inside. So I think, there's like, when you feel an emotional charge, as you said, I think part of the sustainability of self is the awareness and cultivating that awareness and bringing it back to you of how you feel and why you feel that way. So it's a lot of self inquiry where you're constantly making that exchange with yourself of like, okay, well, this kind of triggered me. Okay, why did it trigger me? Instead of creating this novela, that's like literally like around something, it's like, okay, bring it back to myself and question and say, why is it making me so angry or so sad, or so, usually it's, for me it's usually angry. But why is it provoking these emotions in me? And then how do I work about it? So that's kind of the inner work. That's the inner work and the inner pinnings of it. um what was I going to say? I'm sorry. See, that was one of my disclaimers. I go between English and Spanish, and then I'm having
We all
complete
do.
conversations in both languages. No, but as I said, I think it's a lot of returning to self, and kind of one of, if not the important part of, sustainability of self, is really bringing it back to you, and kind of like, I am the source, my source of reference for anything. Yes, Marife.
Okay, question. How would you tell a person, what are the things you do to return to yourself? Can you define that a little bit? I think there's a lot of
Okay.
people that don't know what returning to yourself means. So to you, how
Uh-huh.
do you do it? When you're feeling sad, when you're feeling angry, when you're feeling tired, alone, insecure, all these feelings, what do you do to return to yourself?
Okay. This is very funny because I feel like like I talk about this like, if you return to self and this and whatever, and for me it's so obvious because you're right. I practice it, and I try to do at least what I can, but a lot of people don't necessarily have the practice of anything. Like, as we said, there's a lot of automatic things that we do in automatic, and we don't consciously make an effort to kind of uh do inner work and all of that. So for me, it's meditation. And with meditation, uh, I like to sit, I turn on the candles, I spray the the magic waters, and I light the incense and everything. But it can really be just a moment where you are with yourself. So um I have my own rituals, but for you it could be gardening. For other people it can be journaling. For other people it can be a yoga class. You know, it's just a moment where you are um not in complete silence, because I don't think we reach complete silence unless we were like in a monastery in Bhutan, literally with zero stimuli. Then we could
In
possibly
Bhutan, where we don't have anybody to talk to.
we could pause, and even then I would be talking to my like you know, it's like I know myself. But it's these moments that bring you back to source, bring you back to this, you know, state where you are on neutral and your emotions are leveled and you feel at peace and you feel totally caught up in the moment, you know, like when you're planting or you're gardening and you're cutting and you're totally in the moment. For me it's, you know, literally quieting the chatter and listening to music and watching a candle burn. And just sometimes, I mean, I remember when I would sit in front of the wall and I would say, I need 5 minutes in front of the wall. When I used to work like in crisis management and stuff, I would like, I needed my 5 minutes in front of the wall. So it's really about, nowadays it's very hard to define for somebody how to bring you back to you. And for me it's always what gives you joy. and and I think that's also a process of getting to know yourself, you know, what brings you to a space where you are at peace, where you are on a neutral state, where you are just there.
Mhm.
So it means a lot of things for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. But and also I think it needs, you know, it there's this assumption that it has to be like go full on, like, oh, you have to meditate for an hour. No, no, no. I think it requires, you know, you measure your own time. You get to know yourself that way. You find, you know, peace in a way that only you can find it. And so I think that's like a self-discovery tool that people have to explore on their way to, you know, figuring out their sustainability.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I remember telling people, well, my happy place is my shoes. I literally just go into my closet, my shoe closet, and I stare at it. And it sounds dumb
That's the
sometimes.
first time I hear that.
But that's my me time, you know, like it's like if I'm feeling so stressed, like that's the only thing I have to do. Like I go and like I open the door. It's almost like you hear those like
Uh-huh.
kind of like that. But I agree with that. Like it's just it just is so dependent on people.
Yeah.
Something that you were mentioning right now though, it's like trying to like sit down and try to think, okay, what is it that made me react like that, or why did I get so mad? But I think that's something that a lot of people don't even know, like, okay, but how can I figure those things out? Like, so what are some of recommendations in that respect that you're like, you know what, okay, so one of the things that will help you get to that point to where you can actually think, okay, why am I reacting the way that I'm reacting to this specific thing? What would you recommend to them specifically?
I think it's, again, everything is a practice, you know, everybody, because that's what I find too. Like everybody wants that $1,000,000 answer, like
Question.
one,
Yeah.
two, three, you're gonna do this and it's gonna be perfect. And I don't necessarily think that's the path. I mean, I don't think there's like a 1, 2, 3 method. There are tools, but everybody needs to figure it out on their own, and that's kind of the self-discovery process. But I do think, again, cultivating awareness and being, you know, very in touch with, for example, in your interactions with people, like when you are feeling that you, like just the fact of you hearing it right now Like you need to be aware of how you're reacting or why it's triggering you. Next time you have a moment where you have an emotional reaction or you feel emotionally charged, this might, pop up and say, oh, I'm being emotionally charged. Why? So it's a lot of, again, self-inquiry where you make the questions. There's journaling is also a process that can be very telling, and very, very telling, and it helps you track your emotions and kind of like your feelings at, at that immediate moment. So journaling is definitely one of those that people must do. And as you said, like there's a lot of people who are on, they're on automatic. They're not, there's a lot of people who still don't question, like, oh, maybe I had something to do with it, maybe I had a part in this, maybe, we're still kind of playing the blaming game. But I think it also, like, everybody gets to a point where they realize, like, something's not working out, something's not kind of jiving. And when it's not jiving, then you gotta kind of have curiosity to say, okay, why is it not jiving? It's not clicking. Why? And so it's a process that we all go into. And when you hear the calling, you just hear it. It's like you're being kind of forced by the universe to question yourself and to figure it out, and have the rough questions and have the rough answers. So it requires, as I said, as a practical tool, definitely journaling, cultivating self-awareness, being vigilant of your reactions. But on another scale, it's about, hearing the calling and kind of waking up to this thing of, like, okay, it's not working out, I need to change it up. And I think that's kind of like, I mean, that's at least my experience, and that's most of the experiences I know, like, people, were dealt with, and all of us at different levels, with certain situations that lead us to wake up to the fact that, okay, my current lifestyle, my current habits, my current way of communicating, my current, energy exchange is not being favorable to me. So how can I figure out a way of life that actually serves me and my highest purpose?
Obviously, you always have to, like, make that decision.
I'm like, what? Yes, it's a conscious choice. Yeah. Definitely. And I think there's a lot of that where there's also coming to the awareness that you have a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's very basic, but it's very profound. And a lot of people don't realize, like, we have a choice. You have a choice every day, at every moment, to approach a certain way.
Well, we're out of time. I wish we could continue to talk about these.
We are, Tania. I had notes, but bueno. No, it's okay.
We can always do you again and again and again.
Yes.
But I think this is like an ongoing conversation that we should have periodically, not just today, but if we could do it daily with people, it would be amazing.
Well, and as I said, cultivating your own kind of work, because it starts with self. It change, we've had this discussion a lot. It starts with self. You want to change the world, you got to change yourself. You want to make a big impact outside, there has to be a big impact inward.
Yes.
And so this is where it starts. Questioning, making the hard, having the hard conversations with yourself, and being really honest and becoming really aware of where you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And give yourself the opportunity to know yourself first. Know
Oh
who.
my gosh, yes.
Because
Because
a lot of people don't do that.
yeah, no, I know, but that's my favorite, like when it's like people who very adamantly want to be with somebody, but they can't be with themselves, and it's like, dude, you got to learn to love yourself, because if you can't sit with yourself, what makes you think somebody's going to want to sit with you, right?
Somebody should sit with you.
Exactly. So I think, inner work pays off in all the areas of life, and it's very important. And nothing, I'm happy to be here, and I hope we can continue having this conversation. And we literally, okay, yeah,
We will.
yes, okay, perfect.
Well, thank you so much, Vicky, for your
Thank
time.
you very much, guys.
Yes, thank
Gracias.
you.
Love you.
Bye.